What was the first red flag you ignored in your worst relationship? Story 1. So many. I feel like an idiot thinking back. But the biggest one, he kept saying I'm not good at relationships. Plot twist. He wasn't. Insert shocked Pikachu face. Story 2. Mine happened on the very first date. He said he was late because he was having trouble finding parking. He later told me he actually walked to the place from his nearby apartment. Sure, we all make innocuous white lies, but all he did was lie the entire relationship. Story 3. People would give me a weird look when I told them who I was dating, and ask why. They'd say he had a reputation for being in, but hey, maybe he's different once you get to know him. Turns out he was, in fact, an. Story 4. Oof, I ignored a lot. 1. Him admitting he cheated on his ex multiple times. 2. Having a lot of girls on his Snap social media. 3. Finding hair ties girl items in his room around the time we became official. 4. Love bombing. 5. Flirty with other women, teetering on the boundary between friendship and inappropriate. Story 5. Lack of car for his younger brother. First time I slept over and we went to pick up breakfast for us and his younger brother. We didn't realize they messed up his brother's order. They legit gave us an untoasted McMuffin. Nothing else. It was literally a 2-minute drive, so I insisted we go back quickly as we just pulled into the driveway. He refused, didn't even offer to give his younger brother his order instead, and got mad when I offered mine up, told his brother to deal with it, and I got an MY car and drove to get the right order for his brother. I didn't mind as it was a 2-minute drive and I didn't want him eating a plain untoasted McMuffin, plus we were left to take care of him since their parents were out of town for business. Story 6. She literally tried to break up with me and told me she was bad for me and I convinced her she wasn't. Turns out she was right. I was in that relationship for 6 years and married her, most traumatic relationship of my life, and took years of therapy to undo the damage. People will tell you who they are in many ways and you need to listen. Story 7. Honestly, I think I was the problem in my early relationships. I grew up with an abusive mom who told me she should have aborted me, and I think that me up for a long time and I wasn't the best partner, or the best version of me. I didn't purposefully hurt anyone, but I can't say I didn't. Story 8. That she didn't get along with anybody. She was an argumentative and controlling person in all of her personal relationships. I ignored all that and thought she'd change, but after I was with her, I saw that she blamed everyone for her own shortcomings and had anger issues and mental issues and refused to get help. Story 9. She gave away her dog of 6 years because he got sick before I met her. Didn't really stop and think how insanely up that is. Makes me hate her thinking about it. Story 10. It wasn't one red flag, it was red bunting. She basically told me the story of how she screwed over every boyfriend Shed ever had, and there were a lot. I finally realized these were a warning, but Shed shredded my heart and set fire to the pieces by then. Story 11. Started seeing a 40F who accused every partner she's had since she was a freshman in high school of being abusive, controlling, including, eventually, both me and the guy she left me for. 1 is unfortunate. 2 or 3 means maybe some therapy is in order. 15 to 20 means you might be projecting a little bit. Spoiler, she was abusive and controlling. Story 12. Not necessarily proud of how I found out. Saw she got a text, looked over and it was from a dude. She answered it and blurted out something her girlfriend just told her. I ignored it even though I knew lust, thinking you're in love, and a complete lack of self-confidence made me just say okay and move on like nothing happened. Story 13. He threw a bottle of beer at me so hard and fast the bottle cap stuck in the wall. I should have left and never gone back. Yes, it got worse. Yes, I got out eventually. Story 14. Being told head worried I wouldn't be intellectual enough for him, but not to worry because ID passed. First thought at the time was bell end. Definitely should have trusted those instincts. Story 15. Everything I liked and enjoyed he would make fun of me and take the, I was young 18-19 and had never had a relationship before. I was very much in love with him too. I felt like I was sad and pathetic, so I stopped doing what I loved and wouldn't tell him anything. I'm 29 now, and never been in another relationship as it seriously changed me. In getting back to myself, I know 10 years is a long time, but I'm accepting that now. I now do what I love. I read, I write, I paint, I watercolor. I am happy and content again. I feel like I've got myself back. It took years for me to accept myself again because of this boy. I remember he made me go on a drugs run, because he said no one will think you have anything and you'll be fine. Just go get it and come to my work. When I did that for him, he said thank God you're a nerd. I was stupid and stayed with him. He used to cry after and say how good I was. I used to be so confused. He ended it by cheating on me and telling me you look nothing like the girls I wanted at work. It changed me. I'm now a single 29-year-old trying to get by life and regain myself and my happiness. Story 16. He was a mama's boy, girl, no matter what. They never change and you'll never be first PD, and hell cheat on you because the only person he needs to be loyal to is his mom. Story 17. When I met his friends they all told me I could do so much better. If he was genuinely a good guy his buddies wouldn't be trying to give me a heads up. He turned into a serial cheater and gaslighter. It was always everyone else's fault and not his, and everyone just made up lies about him just because. Story 18. Lack of any emotion through the years. Gradually, and before you know it, it's all gone and you end up despising the person you once loved. Because without emotion, no intimacy can happen or compassion. Story 19. His parents kept telling me that you do know he has anger issues, right? And my dumb was like it's okay, I love him. Those anger issues were a huge part of our ultimate breakup. When someone's family members warn you about their negative qualities barring unusual circumstances, like toxicity within the family, listen to them. Story 20. Jealousy. If she's accusing you of cheating on her and you're not, there's only two possible explanations. 1. She's immature and isn't ready to be in a committed relationship. 2. She's the one cheating and she's projecting. Both are valid reasons to end the relationship. Story 21. The fact that he only seemed to show love or affection through gifts, financial things. Turns out the entire relationship was based around manipulation, financial abuse, and control. Took a lot of work to unfuck that situation. Story 22. He date raped me post-grad and I got engaged to him. I was confused, young. I felt like it was my way of holding him accountable. He was happy he got the girl. I fell into a depression. I went home, finally dealt with it. SOB, I hope he is rotting in peace. Story 23. He constantly talked down about other women. He would comment on their weight, the clothes they wore, would criticize their tattoos, literally anything, and as time went on I was no different when it came to facing his ridicule. Learned a difficult and forever life-altering lesson with him. Story 24. A real pattern of stories in which they were always the victim, with no apparent introspection, admission around their own role in any given issue or situation, and wouldn't you know it. Story 25. He was so sweet and shy when we met. When he told me his doctor diagnosed him as a sociopath, I was like, no you're not. Anyways, it wasn't long after that he started beating me. He was in fact a sociopath, and he literally told me, but my dumb was like, nah. Story 26. My 36th first month with my last. I had plans to go to the Renaissance Fair with some friends and invited him, but he had to work. He acted super pissed the night before that I was still going without him. Then the next morning he called me saying he was having a stroke, 42M, smoker, and I was like, OMG, call 911, Imam, to your apartment. He says no, don't come over, so I wait. He calls me from a hospital that he drove to 30 minutes later and says his brother met him there. At this point it's clear it wasn't a stroke, and I say, can I come meet you? Which hospital? He says no, so I take my friends to the Ren Fair and text and call to check on him. He ends up flipping out on me, saying I should never have gone since he was in the hospital. I just thought since we had only been dating a month, and his family was there, and he wouldn't cooperate in telling me which hospital to go to, or where to meet him to see him, and he was fine, I didn't think canceling my plan was appropriate, or even what he wanted. This set the stage for the rest of the relationship. He would never admit to what he wanted or needed, and actually would tell me the opposite of what he needed, sincerely, even when I said, but let me take care of you, or whatever. Histrionic displays and tantrums are a big red flag and you need to leave immediately. It ended in him almost killing me during a tantrum on a camping trip 2 years later. They do not change for you. Once you show them, you'll stay through their bad behavior. Story 27. On the first date she said I'm kind of obsessive. She then proceeded to stalk me for a year after I broke up with her. Fortunately, we were both in the military, and she transferred to another command eventually. Story 28. It was a very short relationship, but early on we were at his folks and standing around the kitchen. His dad was headed to the store. He asked his dad what he was going to the store for, and his dad was like, oh, some things, milk, bread, he'll probably pick up something for dinner. In the most average and normal tone of voice, I nod. The guy I was seeing explodes and goes, I was just asking. My head spun around. I was so confused. How could anyone have interpreted his dad's calm, nonchalant grocery list as a personal attack? In hindsight, how unfazed his dad seemed should have indicated this wasn't a rare occurrence. Story 29. The first night we had, I spent the night at his apartment. In the morning we were laying in bed naked and his doorbell rings. It was his ex-wife and his 4-year-old daughter. He had forgotten that he was watching her for the morning. I literally grabbed my clothes and hid in his closet until his ex left. Then he plopped his daughter in front of the TV and snuck me out the door behind her. Oh, he was also broke and turned out to be an alcoholic. Story 30. Concerns that are subtly manipulative so that it will guilt-trip you into doing what he wants you to do. Example: don't accept the overseas scholarship because you will not be able to afford living there, or have me around for support. It translated into please don't go away from me because I'm afraid you will find someone else better than me. Story 31. To any women here, please read this book to understand the red flags to look for. It's a full PDF. The author, a male researcher who pioneered the field of intimate partner violence, basically leaked the abusive man's playbook. What you think you know about abusive men and why they abuse is very likely wrong. I was certainly wrong. They don't abuse because of childhood trauma or mental illness, or because they just lost control, or because they need to go to anger management, or because they don't know how to handle conflict in productive ways, or because they are an alcoholic or addict, and there is no statistical pattern to the types of women who end up with men like this. It can happen to any woman. My jaw was on the floor for much of this book. Wish someone had given me this as a teen, would have saved me from considerable harm later in life. Story 32. Finding out that he was in a relationship when we started dating. We weren't official at the time, and when I found out, his buddies were giving him over something and made a passing comment about him still seeing a girl when we started seeing each other. I asked him about it later in private and he told me that he had broken up with her before we officially became a couple, so I thought it was okay. He cheated on me later, to be young and dumb. Story 33. Relentless pursuit. After I rejected him, we are taught to think that pursuit means they are interested in us and that it's romantic to be chased, but really, it's a red flag that highlights their inability to respect the word no. After 5 years of an emotionally abusive relationship, I always paid attention to that. Story 34. When he who couldn't hold down a steady job blamed me for 2 years for losing a job he had for a month. The reason? Supposedly he was staying with me and that's why he was late one day, but he was never late, at least not with me. Then everything got worse and hit me. Luckily I left him and the pandemic started. Story 35. The first time I saw my ex acting upset snapping at his roommate while making dinner, I gently laid my hand on his arm and asked is something wrong. He yelled I am fine and kept yelling at me all night, angry at me for prying. Turns out he would treat me like this every time he was upset for the next few years. Story 36. On our first date, he asked me out for dinner and a movie. We went to the movie first, and by the time we got to the restaurant, it was late 9 p.m. or so, because Head asked me out to dinner. I hadn't eaten beforehand and was absolutely starving. But when I said I was going to order a burger, he told me that it was too late for dinner. I was only allowed dessert. Stupid young, naive me should have seen the red flags right then, but since he was paying, I didn't argue. And because my family thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, it led to a horrible marriage to an abusive control freak. Thankfully, he's been my ex far longer than he was my boyfriend or husband. Good riddance to bad rubbish. Story 37. She would often throw out the line maybe we shouldn't be together then, when we had disagreements if I didn't do what she wanted. I thought I knew what I wanted and every time she'd say that it would scare me into line about losing her, I came to a point where I told myself alright, she says that 3 more times she's out. She did and I said yeah you're right, we shouldn't and I left, was in that relationship for 8 years. Best thing I ever did was got out. I'm happily married to the real love of my life now and been with her for 11 years. Story 38. There was never any intimacy, peck kisses. He said we hadn't known each other that long. 3 months, even if we spent the night together, nothing. So frustrating. Seems there should have been more to the story. Story 39. When I heard him on the phone yelling at a customer service rep, went on to experience physical domestic violence with that guy. Don't ignore if something gives you the literal ick. Story 40. So many, but probably the first time he made me cry with how mean he could be. I said he didn't seem excited to see me and he said, what do you want, a red carpet? Story 41. Literally getting raped on his 18th birthday, crying the whole time. He told me I was ruining his birthday. We dated another 2 years. I didn't even realize it was assault until I was an adult. Story 42. She had an old high school friend boy over until midnight-ish. Nobody spoke with me about it even though they all knew they were good friends back in high school. I trusted her and him since I kind of knew the guy. She ended up cheating on me with some random Latin guy at a club and then bragged about how infatuated she was with him straight to my face. WTF. Story 43. 2 red flags at the beginning. 1. Told me my parents were too involved in my life. This was step 1 to separate me from my family friends and keep me isolated. Ick if he did that on purpose or subconsciously, but by the end of our 10 months together my friendships had wilted, my relationship with my family was strained, and I felt very alone too. I grabbed a bag of chocolate chips from the pantry to eat some, and he took them out of my hands and said I think that's enough. He turned out to be ultra controlling, weird, who could have seen it coming. Story 44. She threw a computer mouse at me for talking to another girl. That other girl was my cousin. Never underestimate the jealousy and temper of a Puerto Rican woman with daddy issues. Story 45. Anytime a girl cheekily goes I'm a little bit crazy, believe them. When you overhear he or she easily lie to their best friends, think about when you are on the other end of those lies. Story 46. She called me 5 minutes after I left her place, and told me how much she missed me. I thought it was cute. The first couple times, the love bombing got pretty intense. That is intoxicating. Story 47. I think for me it showed how focused he was on independence. He had come out of a codependent relationship before me, and he was so focused on his independence. Anytime we started to get close he would pull away. I figure he would relax when he realized I wasn't his ex. But he never did, because just turns out he has a really deep-seated fear of intimacy and he blamed it on his ex being clingy. Also a huge one, he wouldn't respond when I talked about something negative. He would go silent or like slyly avoid the conversation. AKA he can't tolerate negative emotion. I'm sure he was always pulling out of their relationship too now that I think of it. Story 48. That all of his ex's mutual friends hated him for no reason and turned on him. His story to me, crying crocodile tears and painting her as a villain to the point I would hug and comfort him over it. These friends all play in the same orchestra. He said they were trying to ruin his career for no reason. Came to find out he was addicted and cheated on her multiple times with numerous people including workers during their 7-year relationship in the house she shared. Sometimes as she slept in the other room, everyone in the orchestra supported her and shunned him as he essentially was lying to all their faces the whole time. Guess what? He did the same thing to me. I found out what happened to her around the same time I found out what happened to me. He did not learn his lesson obviously. Story 49. After meeting my friends for the first time, both male and female, he said he doesn't like how I am with my friends. He only likes how I am with him. It rubbed me the wrong way at the time, but years later, I understood it was a big red flag. If a partner can't accept all facets of you, they don't accept you fully as a person. Story 50. Could not apologize. Sentence I am sorry did not leave his lips more than 5 times during almost 2-year relationship. Also wanted to be with me constantly, and moving with me very shortly after my bad living situation allow that. Story 51. My first husband was physically abusive and controlling. The first red flag that I can remember was when I went to the gym with a female friend of mine. After we were done at the gym we both got in our own cars and drove to our homes. I lived 15 miles away and my phone was blowing up the whole drive home. It was my then boyfriend so I didn't answer it, because I knew I was on my way home anyway. Well, he thought I was cheating on him. Apparently someone saw me. We lived in a small town and told my boyfriend that I was hanging out with another guy. He said his informant told him that I went to talk to a guy, he got in my car, and we drove away. I didn't even unlock my passenger door. My friend did not come to talk to me at my car before we left. None of what was seen was true, but we got in a huge argument over it. He wouldn't even tell me who told him that they saw me. Nothing I could say would prove my innocence. If he was still alive today, then he would probably still think that I cheated on him that day. That kind of thing happened constantly throughout our marriage. I don't think he'll ever know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that he was the one cheating on me for the duration of our relationship. Story 52. Coming off of it right now. Anger issues, snapping at me, being annoying and getting physical, and not acknowledging that she escalated needlessly, while admitting to the anger issues that caused those outbursts. Story 53. I don't remember which was the worst. I ate a lot of them. The first one maybe was that he always spoke deep about a topic, hours and hours without discuss. Just monologue and change the topic quickly. He never heard me. The worst, I don't know, maybe the money issues. If he saw me naked he asked me to cover up. He turned 2 years later. He just repeated I have stress and screamed and impossible to speak about it. You're sick blah blah. When we went to the supermarket he didn't want to carry bags. I'm ashamed, he said. So I was the one carrying bags. I didn't ask about it. Though it was other trauma. He was mad. Our last dates was about helping him to assemble furniture. He threw away his old furniture and bought new. He looked at himself in the mirror a lot, and when he bought clothes he would pass me pictures. On the other hand, if I had my makeup smeared or my blouse on backwards, he didn't notice that or said me anything. When I went bald he didn't say me either. It was my coworkers who helped me to face my hair problem and go to the doctor. I had a period with a lot of hair loss. Now I'm fine. Multiple factors including having to listen to him daily hours and hours and wanting to break the relationship and that he would not let me free. If we went to a supermarket and they didn't serve him in time, he would just walk out and leave everything there. He did this to me 4 times. If we meet, he always came 30 minutes later. He told me his problems hours and hours daily, but he didn't want to hear my problems. He just screamed. He said me things like you earn too well for your job. You have enough money, you should give your money other people. He became a communist, or I don't know. I've gone years without talking about this. If I had talked about it before, I wouldn't have put up with so much. I normalized his weird stuff. He convinced me that I sucked. I put up with it for so long because he threatened to kill himself if I left him, and because my parents always told me that you can't stand anything. But I'd rather be alone and put up with nothing than lose my hair and health again with another madman. Even though he earned $6,000 a month he wasted it all and asked me for money. I never left him any money, but I gave him food. I have been telling all this and more to many people. And someone told me one day you will meet the father of your children, a man who will carry your bags, at the moment you least expect it. Story 54. Overstepping boundaries. Crying when told he did something that hurt me, always making me seem like the bad guy. All of my friends hated him. Took 2 years to gain the confidence and leave this relationship. Story 55. It was when she asked me to choose a pair of earrings from her collection for her to wear for some event. Thinking nothing of it, I picked a pair I liked and thought would look great for that occasion. Out of the blue, her mood changed. Soon she revealed that she was mad at me because the earrings I selected didn't match her outfit. Why did this trigger anger, and why did she even ask me for my opinion in the first place? Turned out this was just one of myriad unpredictable buttons that would send her into disproportionate anger or a deep funk. And unlike this time, I usually had no idea what I said, didn't say, or didn't do to spark such reactions. Silly me suffered her inexplicable bouts of anger for 3 more years. Story 56. The first one that I really ignored. We don't have to tell people we're in a relationship. She designed a relationship to work on her terms, to get what she wanted and needed out of it, and I went along with it. At the end, when I really needed support during a health emergency, she left. Don't be me. Story 57. She another man. 2 weeks after our relationship started. I told myself that it is okay because our relationship just started and it was not serious yet. I was 18-year-old fool. Guess what happened next? Story 58. He made fun of the Mexican people who worked with him at his car wash. He would mock their accents and about how stupid they were. Dumb young me just figured he was letting off steam after dealing with customers all day. Nope, he was just a racist and cocksuck. Story 59. Lack of response or intrigue in my stories. There was no conversation about what I would say, no feedback or curiosity. At first this can feel like me problem because I thought I was being needy, but this kind of behavior was a common thread throughout most aspects of our relationship. He was very self-centered, self-focused. Story 60. I was her first boyfriend. I was going into 10th grade, she just graduated high school. We lived more than an hour apart, so our relationship was 98 over chat. She created a username as the future Mrs. Lynch when we had been dating for only 2 weeks. She was talking marriage and babies and I am 15 and can't even drive. We dated for 2 months and I had to end the relationship. Story 61. My first ex was accused of SA 3 girls shortly before the end of our relationship. He has been pretty aggressive with me earlier, so I was afraid to leave. He would also say slurs and offensive jokes quite often. I was a teenager at the time, so I have learned from my mistakes. Story 62. Our age difference. My first real boyfriend I met and started going out when I was 18, a freshman in college, and he was 24. We dated for a little over 2 years, and to this day I wish I could tell my younger self to not do it. He wasn't a bad boyfriend really, just now that I know more about grooming and the idea he was into an 18 to 19-year-old is so creepy. I reflect on that relationship a lot and cringe. Story 63. He cheated on his ex, but told me that I was different and he knew he was going to marry me the second he saw me. I was the only person for him and had never do anything to jeopardize what we had. And I fell for it, hook, line and sinker. 10 years into our marriage, what does he do? Story 64. Him sending me YouTube videos of fitness influencers all the time under the guise of motivating me. Can't even imagine how much lower my self-esteem would be if I had stuck around longer for more of his helpful inspiration. Story 65. My partner used to get upset each time I was with my friends irrespective of the gender of my friends. Gradually, I started maintaining distance because I didn't want to have another fight. By the time we broke up, I had lost connection with most of my friends. It was the loneliest year of my life. Story 66. He told me he'd deleted all his dating apps. A couple months later, I found out he not only still had them, but he was still actively talking to people. When I asked him whether he was still on dating apps, knowing he was, he lied and said he wasn't. I told him I knew he was lying, made him show me his phone, and he said he was just on them to mess with people. I started crying and tried to leave his apartment, but he apologized and begged me to stay. I then proceeded to stay with him for 5 years. He later told me he'd perceived my emotional reaction to finding this out as a red flag. And guess what? He turned out to be an emotionally unavailable serial cheater and habitual liar with an aversion to respect and open communication. This wasn't even the only red flag. He also had a female best friend that he'd cuddle sometimes in bed and watch shows with, and he kept replicating our dates with her, e.g. He took me to a hockey game and gave me a jersey to wear, then he did the exact same thing with her a couple weeks later. I asked him to take me to the movies on a date and he said he didn't like going to movie theaters, then posted on his Snapchat story about going to the theater to see a movie with that girl the next week. Yeah, I might be stupid. Just this week I found out that after our breakup, he's once again been talking sleeping with the people he cheated on me with while we were together, so it really doesn't seem like the therapy he claims to be in is doing much for him. Story 67. She refused to do anything without me, wouldn't go job hunting without me, wouldn't keep track of her bills without me, would get extremely upset if I wasn't there to walk her through things she 100 knew how to do by herself. It was such a weird relationship. I was way into the whole I'd do anything for my girl to have any sort of spine to stand up for myself. She broke up with me once but still wanted to be best friends and stalked me to my college dorm. We got back together and that was another few years of that dumb relationship. Story 68. He didn't have many friends. I thought it was because he was a weird kid or whatever, and my mom told me to give the weird kid a chance, so I talked to him, and over the course of 4 years, I lost a lot of my friends too because he isolated me. He was always putting me down. My first bit of clarity came when I showed someone a picture of him not that attractive, and they said he looks nice, and my response was, but he's not. Still talked to him for about a year and a half after that. Glad that's a thing of the past, and sometimes thankful to have had the experience. Now I understand why some people don't leave toxic relationships that they know are no good for them. Story 69. We didn't live near each other more than an hour to each other's homes. Now couple that with Chicago traffic. We hung out for a year, then I found out he was married. Story 70. Like literally everyone in my life telling me this person sounded controlling, manipulative, and that I would regret getting into a relationship with him if I did. Me at 19 thinking they just didn't know him like I did because he was already love-bombing me, started dating this guy and got trapped in a 4-year-long abusive relationship. Story 71. I've got many that I ignored, but the biggest was going to my boyfriend's house immediately after I was assaulted. I told him how the guy managed to kiss my cheek, and said EW, and resumed playing his video games as if nothing happened, all while I was sobbing on his bed. We were both 18 when that happened. Her telling me that her mom said we have to wait for marriage before we were 30 at the time and she had 4 kids from 3 previous. Yeah, love makes you blind to a lot. Story 72. She was running late for work and kicked her new kitten for pawing at her ankles. I should have just run then, but I was 19 and had already seen a lot of animal cruelty from my family, so I didn't think much of it at the time. I swear to Christ, my whole life up until 27 is just littered with red flags. Story 73. She said the music I liked, hardcore rock metal, was for children. This was years ago, but many shows I've been to since then, there have been people in their 30s and 40s throwing down in the pit hole. She was also incredibly rude and condescending to the server on our first date. I told X not to spend on a ring, definitely not go into debt for one. I also wanted a particular cut if I ever had a ring in the future. He took out a loan on his paid-off car for a ring he paid retail price for, and not remotely close to what I wanted. There were other red flags, but seriously, should have stopped there. Story 74. Love bombing and telling me I was perfect. He didn't think he was going to end up with anyone. He thought he would be alone forever until he found me later, that he wasn't good enough for me, that was a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that all his exes cheated on him. I thought he would never cheat on me because he knew how badly it hurt. Turns out he was the cheater, and when someone starts out with you on a pedestal, know they will absolutely resent you eventually and find ways to tear you down. There's a subtle or not jealousy at play when someone thinks you're better than them. TLDR, don't date someone unconfident who isn't already clearly doing their own inner work by taking actions you can observe. Not just claiming they are, but you see no evidence of it. Story 75. When I met him, he had sunglasses on inside because he was so hungover, and when I said hello to him, he nodded and grunted at me like he was better than everyone. I still married him and had kids with him. I should have known he had substance abuse issues and thought too highly of himself. Story 76. When we had at his place for the first time, I hadn't realized that one of his roommates was also his ex-girlfriend. She mixed up some water into dry cat food later that night and threw it on us while we were sleeping in the middle of the night. I should have noped right then. He should have told me about their relationship, and he should have considered her in starting a new relationship. She was justified in being angry IMO. Story 77. On the way home from visiting my relatives for the holidays, I stopped under an old bridge to take some photographs of the structure. He said, "I don't know why you're wasting your time on something so ugly." He used a tone harsh enough to feel like a slap. Very soon afterwards, he started in on the "you're just being emotional and in being logical" bullshit, and then came the cheating, privacy invasion, and abuse. Don't let people stomp on what makes you happy.